Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 11 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast presents Enchantress After Dark. This series is the same great content with a little bit more intimacy. We're the official podcast of the Rocky Mountain Readers Retreat happening September 5th through September 7th in Denver, Colorado. And we're going to be chatting with some of the signing authors and narrators. And today we're chatting with author Delancey Stewart. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I know it's been a long time. We've been trying to sketch some stuff with the attendees, and I'm so excited to get that started. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been writing, and how you got started?
Sure. I think it's a common story. I've been writing forever. The first thing I remember writing when I was a little kid was a book that I also illustrated. It was called Spring is Nice. There were some flowers. I stapled the pages together and tried to sell it to my neighbors. So a long time for the how long question. And really professionally, trying to sell books. It's been more like a decade. So I think 2013 was the first year that I published a book. And I've been in and out of the indie world, the hybrid world, the traditional world, agents and publishers and all that fun. So I think my theme is FOMO. I'm always afraid that if I don't try one thing, I'm always going to wonder what if. So I've kind of tried everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, from a business perspective, it's great not to have all your eggs in one basket. And, so that's a good thing too, that you've been trying things out to see what works for you. There's nothing wrong with that. I love it.
Yeah, I guess the question will be when, after 15 years, will I know what works for me? How long must I continue to experiment?
I know, right? But books are such it changes every couple of years, every couple of months.
Absolutely.
What's popular today is not popular tomorrow. And then you still have that huge fandom of, as if they've social media gets a hold of it and they're like, it's not romantasy, folks, it's fantasy romance. It's been around for years. Don't try to rename it. It's the same thing. But, popularity always happens. But again, you got to try it because, like you said, if not, you never know.
Right.
So you're going to this event that's happening in Denver. How are you feeling about it? What made you want to yes, I'm going to go to this one?
Well, I'm excited because I live in Denver. So it's kind of just in my backyard, which, makes it super easy in terms of getting there and taking all your stuff. So just from a convenience perspective, I'm super stoked to have a reader event in Denver. And then as far as just meeting readers, it's always so much fun to get to sort of put some faces to the names that we see online in our Facebook groups or in our email, or just to actually get the verification or the validation that there is someone on the other side of, all these computers that we use to do business who is enjoying what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Now, I do know that part of the conversation sometimes in the reader groups or even outside, so you guys don't see it, is the attendees, the readers and listeners being nervous to approach your table. What would you tell someone that has flat out said to you, I'm nervous to come to your table, but I don't know what to say? I mean, what would you do? What's your advice?
I totally identify with that because, I've been to expos and conferences and things in my alter ego's professional life. And then also as a reader myself, where I get that, it's kind of hard, especially when there's table after table after table. And you feel like you're going to walk up and say the exact same thing you said at the last table. And I don't know. It's hard, but I have an assistant, more of a friend at this point, although I do pay her because she does a whole bunch of stuff, but she always comes to any time that I have my table set up. She's there and she's really, really good because we were both just ridiculously awkward. And so she's great at sort of standing in front of the table, making chit chat, reeling people in. And if you've read my books at all, especially the sports rom-coms, they're just ridiculously silly. And I'm not a very serious person. So it's pretty easy to get into conversation about wombats and cheese and, all the things that I like. So no one ever needs to be nervous to come to my table.
Well, that's good. It's again, I mean, I've been doing this for 15 plus years. And even when I've had relationships with the author, sometimes a little that moment of awkwardness, or of being of concern that you're taking up their time versus having someone else be able to, chit chat with you.
Right. I get all that. Well, I think importantly, readers need to know that many authors, not all of us, but most of us are introverts, at least on some level, and that it is just as hard for us to stand there and chat as it is for you to walk up.
Mm-hmm. That is true. You have a great buffer, though. That friend of yours is like super secret sauce there.
Yeah, she's amazing. What's funny is I think on her face, she's an introvert too, and doesn't people well, or she would probably say that. She's really, really good at it though. Because we just sort of embrace our awkward, like the readers are our people. This is the one world where I fit in.
With the wombats and the cheeses, right? Well, I think sometimes some of us are what they call it, introvert extroverts, where for the right event and for the right group of settings, and sometimes we just have to muster it up. And I say we because I'm one of those where people swear I'm a social butterfly. And then I have no issues, but my God, the talking up myself to be able to finally get it done, and then the crash that comes afterwards. But I'm also that friend. So I've done it too, where I've like sat in front of, been there in front of the table and say, come on, this author writes fantastic. What do you write again? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I think it's easier when it's not your thing also.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's not saying, come read my books, come buy my books. She's saying like, hey, have you heard of, it would be harder for me to stand there and be like, so I really think you should buy all my books and here's why.
Right. I mean, it comes across into the whole ego thing where we can't love ourselves. We can't promote ourselves as far as, a business goes, or we can't talk about ourselves in a positive without someone thinking something negative, or even ourselves of thinking, oh, why would anybody want to buy my book? Because it's funny and good. That's why. Yeah. So it's good that you have those friends that are able to work and, be able to have that bufferness to it. But with your stories, that your website has this line there about it being always having the comedy part aspect of it all. But you write different genres, but you said it yourself, no matter what, there's always something funny. What is that, just you in general, or is it something that you have to work at harder?
No,
or?
I just can't help it.
I love it.
Yeah, because when I started, I had a group of writing friends that I met on Facebook who, at this point, like many of them are huge names. But one of them, like when I felt like we were all kind of toiling in the trenches, well, several of them really created like really dark worlds, and like they were starting to do like dark romance and kind of like not specifically mafia or taboo, but things in those realms. And one of them just took off like, and I was like, okay, so obviously I have to write really dark and like taboo. And I tried, and it was so awful for me because I can't help but like, it's that's what she said thing. Like anytime I would write a line and be like, it's just not easy for me to not find humor in almost everything. So it comes across in my writing. And I think I finally, I think in the last 5 or 6 years, I've been pretty much 100% small town rom-com. Sometimes I do sports, small town rom-com, but I just have embraced the humor because it's and it's not everyone's cup of tea. Honestly, I have plenty of friends that are like, you're not that funny, but I'm silly. I can't help it.
Yeah. Paranormal tends to be my first sweet spot, but a small town romance with rom-coms involved in it, it's my second. And there's just something about that quaint little town and having the baker or the vet and meeting the girl and the dog runs around, and finding something funny in life has always been, something that, allows us to not only take not everything serious, but allows us to decompress, no matter what stress we're having that day, things are not working out, the printer's printing backwards or Canva's not behaving itself like it was earlier today. Being able to read these stories and laughing is just, even if it's a little gig or not, it's great. I just love that there's still authors that are writing in these kind of small towns, because it does seem like lately everybody is gravitating towards dark romance. And there have been some that are funny and that's it, but I'm like, no, man, he kidnapped her. I'm good.
Yeah. It's so funny because common sense would say there's so much darkness in the world. There's so many things people are stressed out about. And there's been a real trend that I've noticed. I also write cozy mystery, and there's been like a huge move to cozy core and all things non-stressful. But there's still such a just excitement around really dark romance, and I can't write it. I can't read it either.
Yeah, well, that's why I love romance, because there's something for everybody, right?
Yeah.
For those that want to read about the chef and that his favorite cheese is fill in the blank, or the firefighter, and then again with anything, or the aliens and shifters. I mean, there's just about anything for everybody, which I love. Again,
Yeah,
one of the many things, but
for sure.
of course. So I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite cheese?
Well, the reason I brought up cheese, I mean, I do love cheese. In fact, in my reader group right now, there's a lot of people posting about cheese shops in London, because my family's going to the UK in June. And cheese is an important part of my life. I would have said Wensleydale with cranberry probably a few years ago. And I liked it so much, I wrote it into a book. And I think at this point, maybe my sweet tooth is dissipating as I get older. And so my favorite now is called, what is it called? Something dragon, red dragon. I think it's like a mustard infused kind of white cheese, a little bit firm. Very good.
Nice. My favorite is Gouda. So
I do like the Gouda.
Yeah. And in regular Gouda, not the smoked kind that seems to be everywhere nowadays.
Okay.
But the regular Gouda. It's sweet. It has a great melting point. It does melt very easily, but
That's
still
true.
holds its flavor. And again, goes pretty well with anything. So, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the goat cheese also. Not necessarily just the smushy one that you like crumble on salad, but there's lots of different like goat and sheep milk cheeses. In fact, I wrote about a goat farmer. I wrote in Serena Bowen's world a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He was making cheese, of course.
Why not?
He was also a former Marine. So there was, it wasn't all cheese and goats.
Yeah. No. But again, like that's how real life is. Sometimes you have these kind of what we think are that type of individual, and then they come up with and you crochet, okay, or okay, great. You're 6'2" something, and you're quilting, love it.
Yeah. I always try to weave some of that in there. Like there was a hero in a series I wrote where he was kind of like the hot brother, and there were a few books before his book where he was always this sort of enigmatic, ongoing bachelor that everybody talked about and thought was hot. And he had a secret obsession with the British baking show and was always baking. But you don't learn that until his book.
I love it. But yeah, and that is a good show. They're funny too. They have their moments where they're busting out with some innuendos here and there, depending on the cream and what they're shaping and cooking. So
correct.
Yeah.
I miss Mary Berry though.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, that is true. All right. So here's a good question for you. If someone was summoning you via a cauldron, what 3 ingredients or things would they have to have?
Well, cheese, obviously. Maybe some black licorice, or sambuca would work. And let's see, what would the third thing be? Something fun. Maybe like a Scrabble tile.
I like it. I have those easily available as a favorite game of mine. What's one thing that gets on your nerves immediately?
Just in life? That's a good question. I was not prepared for that. I don't like people who, like in conversation, who talk more than they listen.
Oh, yeah. That is true. Do you ever quiz them when that happens, if in case you're listening or not? Because I'm that girl. I could be that petty bitch.
I think I do it sometimes too. I do it. The only time I'll call someone on it is like one of my best friends is, she grew up in Stockholm. I used to think this was just a thing that Swedish people did. Like it must be a Swedish problem, being loud and talking over people. And she's very exuberant all the time. And that's why I love her, but it's also what drives me insane. But I went to her wedding in Stockholm and met lots of Swedish people. And in fact, that is not a Swedish people issue. That's a Jenny issue. But I'll tell her, or I'll tell my husband, like, hey, I'm talking. You're talking over me. Stop that. Listen.
Well, again, effective communication. No one knows, they don't realize it, or, it's one of those things where if you don't tell them, they, can't be fixed, right? But that's good. Communication is a good way. Yeah, I have a couple of people that are in my life that are like that. And I'm like, dude,
it's my turn.
Yes. Or we'll hold I had one group of friends that when we would all get together, we would kind of like, if we were talking and really intimately like then having those moments, we would have a stick, and whoever had that stick was the one talking.
That's if the group really needs control. You have to have
right. Or the excitement and or the get to it already. I'm like, there's details. It's important. But yeah, okay, good. And I'm sure that you love that friend of yours. But you know,
I do.
It does, yeah. What's something you think people might automatically assume when they first meet you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I do know this. I'm over 50, so I've had a lot of years of experience of, you know, people reacting to me and telling me how they perceived me. And I guess I try really hard not to do this anymore, because I used to be pretty shy. But I think also because I was a ballet dancer, I have excellent posture. And so those two things put together evidently translate as standoffish and aloof. And so people have often told me that they think I'm a bitch when they first meet me because I have this like snooty air about me. And I'm like, no, that's because I'm afraid to talk to you and I have good posture.
I mean, it happens. There's been times where I've had someone say the same thing to me. And I'm like, listen, my mom would smack me with a chancleta if I didn't stand up straight. Come on. This is like 4 years of ROTC, you know, it's the perfect posture and being shy. But yeah, I know that's true. Sometimes I'm like, I always tell people just try it out. You know, if you start talking to them, you know, and maybe if they were a bitch, that person they were being a bitch to probably deserved it.
Well, my kids think I overcompensate because now I've become that mom that like talks to everybody. And my almost 18-year-old son is like, Mom, she did not ask you to tell her, like, you don't need to talk to everybody. Just
That's a kid parent thing, though. Our kids always think that we're being too much, to this, to that. Yeah. Yes. I'm like, that's our job.
Exactly.
Did you not read the fine print before you came down here?
I always tell that one because he's my oldest. I'm like, look, I don't know what I'm doing. This is my first time. You're my experiment kid.
Yeah. Because you bust out with, gee, great, thanks.
And we screw it up with you and then hopefully get it right with the second one.
Yeah. I have an identical twin sister, so that, you know, and then a younger brother. So even though there's 3 of us, technically 2. So yeah, there was sometimes that conversation would happen about, you know, first time parenting. And I'm like, well, I'm only a minute younger, so there wasn't a whole lot of things they could have adjusted. But again, it's the perk of being a parent, is those moments where we get to embarrass them. But sadly, sometimes we're just caring and they're like, stop. I'm like, fine.
I know.
You know, when someone asked me what you were wearing or who you were hanging out with, you know, I'm like, I don't know, because they won't tell me. That's fine.
Yeah.
Good thing I can track you via the phone. Now, this happens a lot in books, and especially in romance, that whole thing with love at first sight, you know, insta love. But do you believe that love at first sight actually exists?
I think it depends on your definition of love. I definitely think attraction at first sight exists. But I believe that love is something that is born out of longtime knowledge of another person and understanding of sort of their foibles and a decision to adore them anyway. So I don't think that love at first sight is necessarily possible, but I definitely believe you can feel some kind of chemical attraction or just like the way someone looks.
Mm-hmm.
Or hear them talking and be like, wow, I really want to get to talk to that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's definitely that chemistry where the one thing that you guys have in common, because that's how you guys started talking, whether it's, you know, if you ran into them at Barnes and Nobles from what they were reading, or something else, can be instantly as far as, okay, that attractiveness. But yeah, you're right. That love is like, it happens. But, you know, I'm like that. I really tend to be that. That's why, again, I love paranormal, because that to me is a little bit more like, oh, that could happen. But again, he's also a werewolf.
Yeah. I like the concept of the fated mate for sure. But I think maybe it's one of those things, you know, you like to read about things that you don't believe exist, like the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know. Especially, it's definitely one of those like, well, is there proof? Maybe. Who knows? I'm not going to dive into that lake to find out, though. I can tell you that.
It's cold.
Yeah, that's true. It's always cold there, isn't there? And rainy. But anyways, do you think it's easier to love or hate someone?
I think it's easier to love someone.
Okay.
Hate takes a lot of energy.
That's true. Love takes a lot of work too, though. But the energy is different. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about like an individual and a romantic situation, I guess maybe it's just as easy to do either. But in general, like strangers and the world at large, it's a lot less effort to just decide that you love everyone than to try to figure out who you hate and why, and then justify yourself.
True. Mm-hmm. And again, since we are talking still about romance and stuff, what are your love languages?
Oh, I like gifts. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And little gestures. Like they don't have to be big things, but like, see, my husband totally misinterpreted this, and we've been married 20 something years now, so I don't think it's going to change. But the very first Valentine's Day that we spent together, he asked what I wanted. And I said, oh, just some kind of a token. And he was like, well, I mean, like, I want to get something that you like. And I was like, well, I like Fritos, but I don't necessarily want, but he didn't hear that last part. And so he came home with a little wrapped gift, and I was so impressed, and he handed it to me, and it was a big grab bag of Fritos. And I was like, I do like Fritos, but I was sort of kidding. And he was like, you said you wanted Fritos. I'm like, no, okay. So every Valentine's Day since then, he has brought me a bag of Fritos. And while I do now, that's like a jokey thing.
Yeah.
But, my point was that, like, bring me a bag of Fritos on a random Wednesday, and then I know you love me.
That is, yeah. Now, are your love language, because that's the other thing too, we have our love language for receiving it, but also giving it might be different. So what are your love languages for, like, that you tend to gravitate to? You're
supposed to hone that to the person, right?
And yes, you're supposed to.
Paying a lot of attention to what they actually like. Yeah, I know for him, it's not gifts. It's like, I think it's affection, or I can't remember what the categories are. It's something I'm not good at. I know that.
Acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, or physical touch.
Physical touch. Yeah, that's his. And I'm always like, I'm really busy. So yeah, we've worked it out, but
I poke and they're like, there, you got it.
Yeah, I'll give you a little pat on the shoulder as I walk by. But I don't have time for more than that.
Oh yeah, but if you're supposed to tailor it. But I have a friend that she's great and stuff, but she said it herself. She goes, I suck at gift giving. And I'm like, I get it, so that's why, Amazon wishlist exists. Or for me, similar to you, it's one of those, like, if you're walking around and you see something that goes, oh, Viv, that's what I want. That's the thing. Yes. And that inclusive of a flower that technically might be a weed, and on the way over here, for example. But it's the thought that for that perspective. So yeah, I get that. If you could have a conversation with your younger self, what advice would you give them?
So many things at so many different phases of my younger selves. I think in high school, I had this perception, because as I said, I was shy and awkward. I always thought, I think, and my youngest son, I think he feels this too, like that people are watching, like that everyone's seeing everything all the time. And with him, I'm always like, God, dude, nobody's paying any attention. Like, just do the thing. Nobody cares. I wish I could tell myself that, because I think you feel like you're in a spotlight all the time, when in reality, everyone's walking around in their own spotlight and nobody's paying any attention, beyond the obvious stuff. So I could have just been so much more relaxed and comfortable. And I think life just would have been probably a lot more fun, but oh well.
Well, it's just that you kind of have to live that way now, right? And just, dance.
I do. I think that's what embarrasses my kids.
You only had this one life, and so you might as well enjoy it. And if someone doesn't like it, go fuck off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What are you most afraid of?
Not getting to do all the things that I want to do. Like dying too young.
Do you have a list of things that you want to do? Like, not a bucket list, but just a list of things.
It's kind of just a mental list. Like, I really want to see both my kids settled, whatever that means in their lives. Like when I die, I want to feel that they're both, secure. I'm sure all parents feel that way. I want to feel like I wrote everything I wanted to write, which often means, flipping genres and things, which I'm kind of giving myself permission to do this year. I have a bad habit of wanting to do lots of different jobs also, like in my professional life. I have been everything from a wine salesperson to a personal trainer to a technical writer for the government to marketing director for a technology company, like I to a pharmaceutical rep. And I always hear about something new and then I position myself and try to go do that thing when in reality, like I probably should have picked a path at some point. But I don't want to, like, I want to do all the things all the time. That's all.
I relate so much to that. And that's why I'm not picking up epoxy, because I'm concerned that if I pick up epoxy and I like it, there goes another business venture.
What are you saying? Epoxy?
Epoxy, yeah. Those like making the trays, and the containers and the jewelries and stuff like that. Says the girl that has her degree in business management, culinary arts, has taken photography classes, has done a couple of different ventures in business, most of them in the book world. In my majority of the adult life, but still anything from graphics to marketing. I mean, it's running the gamuts. And so I totally relate to that.
Yeah. Totally.
Are you a learner?
Are you talking about my Clifton strengths?
Yeah, like the top strength. Again, corporate speak. Sorry, folks.
No, I gotcha. They're in here.
Yeah. Well, because it's something that I realized that if you fall in there, like if you like learning new things.
7.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm a 7 learner. I'm intellection is my number 1. My biggest problem though is my activator and my achievement. I just like always need things to be happening. I want to start things and get them going and check the boxes when they're done. So that's why I always have 30,000 things happening.
Yeah, too many tabs in my browsers are always open.
Yeah.
But it is so satisfying to mark one thing off as soon as it's on your list. So that's definitely something that works. But I can relate. Yeah. What is one thing that never fails to make you feel better?
Exercise.
You're a runner?
I'm not a runner.
Okay.
I used to be a runner, kind of. I had a knee surgery last year, and running is the one thing that he said, please don't do this anymore. So I feel like now I have a doctor's note. I don't have to run. But I do a lot of strength training, and Orange Theory is my crack.
Orange Theory?
Mm-hmm. So it's like a fitness studio, and it's kind of a specific workout where you do 20 minutes on the treadmill, 20 minutes on the rower, 20 minutes of strength training, but it's different every single time. And you're moving around the room, and it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely keeps you entertained or not stuck in one thing that you don't like for a long, long time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I've always admired those people that are like, oh, I'm stressed out. I'm going to go for a run. It's 4:00 in the morning. I need to get going. I'm going to go for a run.
Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah,
or the gym,
even people who love running and get up early to do it like that hate getting up early. That's not the part that is great.
The running part, yeah. But
yeah, it's mostly the afterwards part, actually. But also for people who are really in their heads, I think that doing something physical kind of kills that constant voice for a little while and lets you for me, it's like a meditation, because I can't meditate worth shit. I'll sit and my brain just starts going, and I know that's the whole challenge and I'm supposed to overcome it and whatever. I just, no. So I'll go for a long walk or something, or go work out, and my brain focuses on that one thing that I'm doing instead of on the 30,000 other things.
Meditating or staying still was never my strong suits. I would like to be doing something and actively going, so my mind would never shut off. Last year, I kind of made a point of, working on that self-care and having those, even if it was just 5 minutes of uninterrupted, just, meditating kind of thing. And I've progressed a long way, and I'm continuing to do it this year too, where I'm just, disconnected, no phone, just in the moment and enjoying all that stuff. And it's important but I don't do it via exercise.
Yeah. Well, and when you say stuff like that, I still feel like, yeah, I should do that. But I don't know. Maybe not everybody has to do that.
No, that's the thing. Some people do it while they're baking. Others do it while they're drawing or doing something or singing at the top of their lungs. There's different ways of finding that kind of inner peace.
Yeah.
But for me, it's because again, for work wise, I'm always on the device, whether I'm, something on email, something on socials, interacting, this and that. And so to be able to not have to do something, I was like, wait, it feels wrong. I'm missing what's going on.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, I can't even sit still and watch TV.
Yep, I get that too. So when do you feel the most free?
The most free. Well, I mean, it seems redundant, but on a walk, probably. We live in Colorado, like I said, but I'm south of Denver, so we're not really in the city. And there's a lot of open space, and there's this trail through my neighborhood. My neighborhood's super hilly, and there's a lot of trees. And so there's this one trail you can take where you don't even see any houses at one point, but you're really like in the middle of my neighborhood. And it just like, I like that feeling of kind of just being away from the world. And like, I don't know, it's easier to forget all the craziness and the devices and the people and all the things and the politics and whatnot when you're just standing in the middle of a bunch of trees.
Yeah, a few years ago when I went to Denver, we went to the mountains there that you guys have, and we were, doing some trails and stuff, and saw the concert. God, what's that place
Red
called?
Rocks.
Red Rocks, thank you.
Yeah.
And it was just like focusing on not falling and walking on these lines and making sure I don't trip. But it was, again, just being able to enjoy there's a rock here and it's really, really big. And then we noticed the sign about the mountain lions or, tigers and bears. Oh my, you guys sometimes have there. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I don't think we have tigers, but everything else.
You love this. In the middle of the walk, there's a sign that says, watch out for big cats.
You're like, how big? Like a rag doll?
Right? And then my husband's like, it's not a kitty. I'm like, here, kitty, because I'm the girl.
Yeah. There was a bobcat in our front yard not that long ago. And it looks like a zoo animal, but it was also kind of small. So I was sort of like, how cute. Like, I wonder if it would come to me. Yes.
Yeah, right. Like, come here. We have scratchers and food constantly. You don't have to go hunting for it. Treat? Yeah. This is a good kitty. Yeah, I'm that girl. So I was like, wait, there's a kitty cat. He's like, it doesn't purr.
That's what they do.
That's what they do. I'm like, your kitty. I have treats. I'm like, stop it, Viviana. I'm like, okay, fine. Let's keep walking. Yeah, we're that girl again. We can domesticate any animal there as long as they're cute.
As my husband says, why friend-shaped if not friend?
Yeah. That's right. I love that. That's true. It's just a cute little noodle. It's no worries. It's not a snake or anything. All right. Here's a good question, especially with a lot of your titles already being in audio. But who would narrate an audiobook memoir about your life?
Oh, well, if I could have anyone I wanted, let's see. Reese Witherspoon comes to mind, and I'm not sure why, but maybe Jennifer Lawrence would be more appropriate.
Okay. They both have the comedy genes.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Especially with Jennifer Lawrence, that sort of dry, goofy wit.
Yeah. Okay. That works.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. I gave you homework. And so we're going to start with the game that we play with our guests. It's 2 truths and a lie, where you tell us 3 things about yourself and we try to figure out which one's the lie.
Oh, I didn't write that one down. Okay, I can do it real quick. So you need 3 things and one of them is a lie.
Yes, and we're going to figure out which one that is.
Okay, let me think. All right. I have a credential to teach elementary school. I once went skydiving and the parachute almost didn't open. And I have been bitten by a lion.
Talk about kitty. All right. So you had the credentials to be able to teach elementary. You had gone skydiving and the parachute almost did not open, or you've been bitten by a lion. All of which could potentially be a truth. But then with
Or
questions. Like, where were you that you got bitten by a lion? So let's see. Is the lie the bitten by a lion?
No, that one's true.
Okay, so what were you doing that you almost got bitten by a lion?
That's why I can always play this game. I was in South Africa for work, and we went to I hate saying this because I know in the US we would never have this, but they had it, and so I had to go. They had like a zooey place where you could go pet baby lions that had been like taken from their moms. Oh. But so we walk into this like enclosure, and there's this whole like puppy pile of little baby lions, and they weren't all tiny though. They were like, some of them were probably like 60 pounds. I guess they were like up to 6 months old, maybe. I can't remember. But the guys basically said, okay, let me just hold your purse and you can go over there and pet the lion. Don't touch their ears or tail. And we were like, okay. So we sat down, and the lions like climb all over us, and then we were petting them. They're not soft. They're kind of, what's the word? Like wiry feeling. Okay. But they were super cute. But they were playing with like water bottles, like, you know, if you had a little water bottle, and they're chomping on them. And so I was kind of holding one and playing with the lion. And then he started biting on my arm instead of on the water bottle. And then he really attached himself. And I was like, oh, hey guys, hey, hello, like help. And nobody was paying any attention. The guys that worked there were totally like just chatting with each other. So I just pried his jaws off the way you would do with a dog. And he had pierced the skin, and it was bleeding. I was like, oh, this seems bad. So we left, and I went and asked one of the guys if he thought I needed to worry about like bacteria or anything. And he was like, oh, you'll be fine. So I have a scar from being bitten by a lion.
Wow. That's a fantastic story. and I know it's because, again, you don't ever, especially here in the States, we don't really want to have a form of a petting zoo with lions and things like that. But at the same time, it would be such an experience. But no, it's okay.
It was amazing.
Yeah. And you would think that they would be soft because of all that hair and fuzz, but you're saying it's like wiry kind of thing. It's like that.
Maybe the tiniest ones would still be soft. I don't know if they were just like dirty because they roll around a lot in the dust, or if their fur is just, it's probably kind of meant to repel stuff. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Humans are being all cute little kitty. All right. So either you have the credentials to teach elementary, or it's skydiving and your parachute almost didn't open. Okay. Which one's the lie? See, after that lion one, almost anything's possible.
You never know.
And also the fact that you love doing the whole like multiple careers and stuff, that could potentially be it. But can I want to say, I don't know. Ooh, you got me on this one. This is good. I usually not caught this way, but is the credentials to teach elementary the lie?
No, that one is true.
Okay. See, going a bit. I was hoping you were going to jump out of a boat. I'm like, you've already touched a lion. Why not jump out of a perfectly working?
No, I'm not going to do that. Yeah.
So was the lie that you went skydiving, period, or that when you did, the parachute almost didn't open?
I've never been skydiving. Okay. So it's all a lie.
Got it. Okay. But again, it's in the details, right? When it comes down to this kind of homework, you never know.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a good one. I mean, and also as far as having scars, that's at least a good story. Anytime something like a friend of mine's, or someone I knew would say that they got hurt or something, like you just got to come up with a really good story, like samurais and swords or something, because otherwise you got to explain you fell because you weren't paying attention.
Well, I wasn't mad about it because I was like, this is a story for the rest of my life. I hope it is a scar.
Yes, and so many years later, he's still telling it, folks, which is fantastic. I love it. It's great. Now, the other part of the homework was guilty pleasures. And so since you're the first time guest, you don't know this part yet, but we do play a game of, for our Patreons, because the podcast has a Patreon, where we play a quick round of Would You Rather, where I ask you to choose between two things because I'm evil that way. Okay. One of the questions is, would you rather tell everyone your guilty pleasures or never partake in any of your guilty pleasures ever again? And usually I want to say 95% of the times, or 99, it's oh yeah, I'll tell everybody my guilty pleasures. But we kind of stop it at that. We don't ever go into it. And the running joke has always been, the next time you come back to the show, we're going to talk about those guilty pleasures. Never really have. So I said, what the hell? So let's talk about guilty pleasures. And so, like, what are some of your guilty pleasures?
Well, I'm not a very complicated person. We've already talked about cheese. Wine and chocolate ice cream would go in there too. And then television also. I really like watching television. I'm not great at it because I have to do something while I watch it, but I just love a good story. So I think that just is part of the same whatever made me decide I needed to write. But those are them.
Okay. What's something that you're currently watching?
I just started watching The Residents. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I think so. Is that the one that's for the doctors and stuff?
No,
it's that's another one.
It's like a kooky murder mystery that happens in the White House. And
that's brand new, Netflix, right?
Yeah. Brand new, like a Shonda Rhimes thing.
Yeah.
But I watched the first episode, and I think that maybe I can't watch TV if my kids are like operating in the same room, like getting dinner or whatever. So I think I was being interrupted because I feel like I didn't absorb it. But I'm watching that. I'm watching White Lotus, of course, 2023. Sorry, that's 1923, not 2023.
Well, you never know. Depends on where we're looking at it.
Entirely different show. I don't know. That's it right now, I think. But I was just visiting with some friends in Chicago, and the whole weekend I was keeping a list because every time I sit down and I want to watch something awesome, but I've like finished all my things that I was into, I'm at a complete loss, and I'll just sit there and go through all the menus and not find anything. So I have a whole list now of all the things that they mentioned. So
So I'm also watching 1923.
Love it. I love the guy that plays Spencer. I don't know why. That's the thing for me.
Mm-hmm. I'm always that curious that like that entire series, even the ones I seen before, it was just a really good storytelling, right? And in an era where we sometimes get it glamorized, where it's always just cowboys and everything's okay and how things happen. But that one, The Residents, is one that it's on my list. Once I finish one or two other series and their seasons, because like you, then I'm like, where do I go? And and I have like a bunch of them that I'm watching now. On Hulu, there's a bunch of them. The Rookie, Trent is another one. Tracker. I'm also watching The Pit on HBO. Have you seen that one or heard about that?
Oh, is that the Noah Wyle thing?
Yes.
I've heard that from like ER doctors and ER nurses say that he like must have worked in an ER at some point because it's so realistic.
So with that one, it's what I'm really enjoying is that for every episode, it's 1 hour of their 15-hour shift. So we're not jumping around. 24. Yeah. So we're not going to be jumping around in a couple of days in that one episode. So it's that 1 hour in their shift. And what they did do is they did bring a bunch of specialists in the show that have worked in ERs. So the lingo, the conversations, the how things move, the quickness and stuff like that. And this is the first show that does not shy away from things as far as, panning the camera up instead of keeping it where it is.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
I could watch it then.
Well, I mean, there was a penis and situation, and for those that don't know what a birthing looks like for real, there you go. Watch that episode, yeah. But I think it also brings a little bit of that reality and demystifies some of these potentially glorified topics, right? Or people that kind of gloss over things. I can be a doctor. No, Vivi, you cannot.
I can't look. Like even there was an episode of 1923 where they did like a surgery without anesthetic. I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but it honestly wasn't that gory, but they made it, they always show just enough that your stomach kind of jumps and you're like, oh God, how much are they going to show? And I couldn't even, like the second it began, I was like, oh God.
So maybe The Pit may not be good for you.
Yeah, I have not elected a lot of medical shows I don't love for that reason.
Yeah. Well, again, most of them will shy away where you only get like, a little bit of splatter here and there and that's about it. But this one is, like I said, not. Yeah, this one's not. But that's also why I go back to I now watch The Rookie or I watch Equalizer and something else is fun.
Yeah. The Night Agent was good.
Yes.
Too. Did you watch
that? Was another one that was really good. And I thought at the second season, I'm like hoping for a third. I realized, and I don't know if anybody else does the same thing. Like when I read, it's a lot of romance, and within the subgenres, I jump around a little bit. But I've been like, I should do like mysteries or thrillers. And then I don't. But everything usually on my watch list is thrillers, whodunit. And I'm like, oh, that's why I'm watching Reacher now. Okay.
I read thrillers too. That's sort of my book of choice.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was just something that kind of I had the aha. I'm like, what, Viv, here you are reading all this romance, and you have yet to really do a full thrown off thriller that way. But you watch it and you love it, and I'm like, maybe it's because the couple of times I tried reading it, I figured out who done it real quickly. Where I think sometimes even with the TV shows and the movies, I can most of the time I want to say I can, but that's when you're like, it's a really good one when I can't figure it out, or there's that twist.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's why. Okay.
Well, there's, obviously some better than others, but
yeah. Well, I'm going to keep, I'm going to add that. It, again, was already on my list, but definitely adding it again to the calendar. Yes, folks, I tend to do a calendar because since we stream everything and back in the days, we used to have to wait an entire week. So we knew that on Thursdays, we would get that new episode.
It's still like that though. Like Sundays, I get all excited because I can watch Lotus and 1923.
Yeah, but that's also relatively coming back. It used to be that they used to drop everything all at once. And now they're starting to do the episodes we're doing it once a week. But then with so many shows, you're like, wait, was this one the Thursday or the Sunday one? Which one is it?
Well, the best thing now is that it doesn't matter if you miss it or get it wrong because it's still there waiting for you. It used to be if you miss it, you're screwed.
Yes, I know. Hope that maybe they were going to give a rerun earlier in the day of if it was on a weekend.
Or that you set your TiVo.
Yeah. All right. Yes, the VHSs and DVD, all that fun stuff. It used to be back in my day. Goodness. God, we can continue probably talking about a bunch of different things, but I won't keep Before we go, tell us what you're currently writing and what's coming up next for you that you can share.
I have a book coming into Kindle Unlimited tomorrow that came out actually last week. I always release on my shop and on some of the wide retailers first so that anyone that doesn't read in KU can grab it. And that is the fourth book in the Wilcox Wombats hockey series. And it's called The Prince and the Puck. And it's about a man who has been playing pro hockey in a small town in Virginia, and his teammates don't know that he has a secret background. He's actually royalty. He's a prince of a tiny island nation, and the country is currently going through kind of an upset where they need him to come home immediately, and so they deploy an agent who is his childhood best friend and obviously a very attractive woman to bring him home, but she can't tell him who she really is, why she's there. He has to choose voluntarily to go home in order to not trigger the regular secession rules. I had to figure out a bunch of stuff that's probably all bullshit, but it's funny. So she goes home or she goes to the US to get him, and hilarity ensues. So that's out tomorrow in KU. And then I'm also, I write as Nancy Stewart in Cozy Mystery. And my next book in the series I've been working on, which is the Salt Cliff Mysteries, set on the coast of California in a tiny village with a neurospicy sleuth who has a service dog named Taco. That one is called Done In at the Dog Spa, and it comes out April 15th.
Nice. And I know that one of your audiobooks is going to be coming out, or by the time this airs, because I think we're airing this in a day or two afterwards, but Only a Secret is coming out in audio on the 25th. So
you're paying more attention than I am. I know you're right. The whole series is with Tantor. That's the Casper Ridge series. It's actually set here in Colorado. And I love that series. It's former fighter pilots rebuilding a mountain resort. And there's a mystery, like a treasure hunt, basically, at the heart of the whole series. But each book is a standalone, so you don't have to get into that if you don't want to. But there's a little bit of like a new clue in each book, and at the end they solve it.
Nice.
But my husband was a fighter pilot, so having the former fighter pilots was kind of a way to incorporate the bizarre brotherhood that is the squadron community.
True. Yeah, I was looking and I'm like, oh, okay. So now I'm going, when is this airing? Like, yeah, it's within a day or two of it airing. So we're good.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that one is an age gap. Former childhood star meets older man. They both have secret identities, kind of, or secrets at least.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Every time I hear age gap, I'm going, what do we consider an age gap? Because
right.
Yeah, it was all these questions. I'm like, as long as they're 18, I don't care. As long as they're adults. But yeah, well, again, my husband's 8 years older than I am. So technically, that's a gap. But that's also where like people are like, oh yeah, it's like a 5 year. I'm like, is it though?
Yeah.
But
my parents were 13 years apart. I feel like
Mhm.
that's as much of a gap as I'd want.
yeah, I think my parents were, I think, 16 years apart or something.
Oh, wow.
Like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, something about the silver fox. I don't know. I'm like, I'm not going there. Thank you so much, Delancey, for taking the time to hang out with me today. It's been so much fun.
It has been. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now we'll see you in a couple of months over at Rocky Mountain Readers Retreat.
Yes, please do not
fun.
be shy to come up to my table and introduce yourself in person.
I will bring Fritos.
Bring some Fritos and some cheese.
Yes. If that's not a way into an author's heart, I don't know what is. Well, if you're not following them on social media, I will be providing you guys with all the links so you can over at our website, Viviana, Enchantress of Books. And again, pick up your tickets for the Rocky Mountain Readers Retreat at their website, which is www.rmreaders.com. And until next time, happy listening.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobookloving. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.